allude to that, Aquinas would say, is in the phrase that I quoted, which comes from Milton, where, isn't it in Paradise Lost, that Satan says, evil, be thou my good? You see? Misapprehended good. But you say that was deliberate. Yeah, but it was deliberate, he would say, in the sense that there is a natural hankering for what I want, what I think is good, what I desire, you see? And in saying, not this but that, evil, be thou my good. Why would one say that if he didn't regard that as good, you see?
Right, but it seems to me that he's not instilling us with a desire for what we perceive as good, but his ultimate good, and that is actually good.
Yeah, but you see, the fact is that insomuch as there is this built-in desire for good, ultimately God, you see, we make gods of our own, God substitutes. This is why material mindedness can become an idolatry, you see. When the highest good is to make money, gain power, you see, that's the God, you see. So the point is that the substitution of some higher good, deliberately or unthinkingly, is still idolatry, you see. So the question, what is the highest end of man? Westminster Shorter Catechism. You see, becomes so basic. Yes, yes. Yeah, well, notice that the Genesis account of the fall has to do with a deceiver. A deceiver causing misperceptions. You see, I'm answering as I think Aquinas would answer. A deceiver who produces misperceptions. I think so, yeah. You see, the will is not acting if there is an empty mind. No thought, no perceptions. How can you choose if you're not choosing something? You see? And if you choose something, you're choosing what you either ought or what you want, or both. No, the term good in this whole tradition, in this whole teleological tradition, the concept of a good is the concept of an end, a goal, a telos. Yeah.
It seems to me that while that end is there, it doesn't seem to be elaborating on what exactly that end is.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's why the first question regarding the existence of God, the first article, is whether the idea of God is innate. And he says no, except in a very vague way. There's no innate idea of God. But there is an innate inclination towards, what we hunger and thirst for. What is it? You see, the vague way. Yeah. Now, of course, you might ask, why is it so vague? You see, and you could say that vagueness is due to the fall, which was precisely what John Calvin said. Read the first 7 chapters of Calvin's Institutes of Christian Religion. Calvin talks of a vague sense of the deity, a sensus deitatis, you see, which is so vague as a result of human fallenness that we need the special divine self-revelation. Yeah. Now, you see, this discussion is focusing around what is the effect of sin on human personality, the effect of the fall on moral psychology. And remember what I was saying before, that Aquinas makes a distinction between the image of God and the likeness of God, such that in the fall, it's the moral likeness to God which is lost. Now, put that in the context of his whole worldview. What he's saying is that everything in creation, every individual thing in creation, should manifest by its own degree of what it is, should imitate the goodness of God. The likeness of God is something that everything in creation bears. That's lost. We've lost our place in the creation, you see. But he says the image of God is not lost. Intellect is still functional, you see. But oh, how we misperceive. Okay. Does that help to put the pieces together? David?
You said that the will is informed by both natural creation and intellect. That was wondering, the sensory soul and the rational soul. I was wondering why these tend to focusing, is it the intellect a stronger role?
Yeah. The point of Westberg's paper was that will, emotion, and intellect in Aquinas are all three interwoven. There are emotional and intellectual causes at work on the will, in the will. In contrast to what I'm calling the mechanistic worldview, which develops a three-faculty psychology of unrelated faculties. You see? So the will is independent of emotion and intellect. No, not in Aquinas. No, these natural inclinations involve emotional inclination and intellectual inclination.
So it's like, well, we're just focusing on one aspect, we're not saying that it's more important.
That's right. Yeah, it's not. Okay. Let's see. Now, let me push this a little bit further. First of all, these inclinations to the good, which we have, need to be developed. And as these inclinations develop, so they form a network of inclinations that becomes the conscience. Sundaresis. The conscience. In which the basic natural inclination is to live for the good, in accordance with reason, however it may be stated. These inclinations. Inasmuch as the emphasis is on inclination, you can see this is an ethic in which there is going to be emphasis on the intention as well as the act. The intention may be towards the good, even though the act is not right morally, is not good morally. The intention could be good without the act being good. You may just plain bungle, you see. And moreover, he makes a distinction, which comes out in the selection you have on page 537. We won't stop at this juncture to look at it. A distinction between a primary and second intention. And this doctrine of double intention is one of the key factors involved in Thomistic ethics and to this day in Roman Catholic ethics. Double intention. The idea is that in addition to the last end, the ultimate end, or the further end towards which you're acting, there are immediate ends. And if one's moral intention is to the ultimate end, one is not necessarily morally culpable for the intermediate end and the bad which it does. Now, that has come out, for instance, in Roman Catholic teaching with regards to the conduct of war, where if the final end is appropriate to just war, namely the restoration of a just peace for friend and foe alike, therefore the resistance of unjust violent aggression, if that is the final end, the final intention, the immediate intention may be to take out a bridge, which may involve the death of enemy troops. Maybe the collateral, that's the term that's used, remember? Collateral damage to property and even the loss of civilian lives. But you see, the secondary intention of doing damage to bridges and troops and the collateral damage which is known would result, you see, that is not the primary intention. The moral judgment is made in terms of the primary intention. If the primary intention is, however, to wipe out a civilian population, that's morally culpable. Though civilians are killed, and this is collateral to secondary intention, then that's another matter. So the doctrine of double intention becomes pretty important in the application of ethics to troublesome cases. And it's been very much criticized as too casuistical by some Protestant ethicists, but it's an important thing to be aware of. That more by way of parenthesis footnote. Now, in this development then of inclination and the development towards the ultimate good, there are a number of things that need to be underscored. If the ultimate end, the ultimate good, is God, then you have, on an Aristotelian basis, a non-Aristotelian highest good. The highest good for Aristotle was the actualization of a life lived in accordance with reason. Perhaps the highest state for Aristotle that a person could achieve was to be a practical-minded philosopher living a full life.
Like Aristotle.
Did I say Aristotle?
No, I was saying
To be like Aristotle.
Aristotle, that is to be someone just like Aristotle.
Yeah, okay. But for Aquinas, the highest end is not to be, as Jeff says, like Aristotle. The highest end is to be like God. The highest end is not a philosopher, but a saint. You see. And isn't that what you'd expect of a Christian ethicist? So watch that difference from Aristotle. Now, inclinations, as they develop, become habits of the mind, of the will, of the soul. And it is these habits or dispositions, settled, established inclinations, dispositions, if you like, habits of the heart, that are, as they were for Aristotle, virtues, or vices, as the case may be. And so Aquinas has really an ethic of virtues, a virtue ethic. He's concerned in his moral psychology about the development of a good person, whose goodness bears the likeness to God, which was lost in the fall. And in developing that, he lays emphasis on 4 cardinal virtues. And you have a section on that on page 538 that's very accessible. 4 cardinal virtues, which are, in fact, the classic 4 Greek virtues that you had in Plato. Justice, wisdom, courage, self-control. But he's not satisfied with those 4 cardinal virtues, so he adds 3 theological virtues. And the 3 theological virtues, of course, are faith, hope, and love. Now, while these are additional virtues, dependent on grace, the natural virtues are achievable by the natural processes of moral psychology, nature and grace. Though obviously grace is going to infuse human nature and contribute to the development of the cardinal virtues. But he's not so naive as to say there are no people who are not Christians, who are nonetheless temperate, courageous, wise, or just. And that is to say those natural virtues are possible otherwise, but not the theological virtues. Now, the emphasis, however, on the development of virtue in the Aristotelian tradition, the emphasis on the development of virtues requires all the time that we develop these virtues as habits. Habits by, as Aristotle said, repeated choice and repeated action. So the question arises, how do we know which to choose and how to act? And it is there that the natural law ethic of Aquinas comes into play. This is a teleological conception of natural law, in the sense that the natural moral law written in our hearts, and he quotes that passage from Romans 1, the natural moral law written in our hearts is written in the inclination of the heart, the inclination of the will, that intellectual inclination. So his question in regards to various kinds of human activity is about the natural inclination towards. It's an end-oriented natural law. Now, about that, a little more detail. The picture he gives us overall is that there are 4 kinds of law. So that he distinguishes between the eternal law, which is in the mind of God. This, if you like, is the archetypal law in the mind of the divine Logos, the eternal wisdom and counsels of God. Which eternal law is revealed, or using governmental terminology as he does, is promulgated in two ways. It is promulgated in natural law, and it's promulgated in divine law, the divine law being given in Scripture and entrusted to the Church. And as the medievals would say, this is applied to particulars by the Church in its canon law. Whereas natural law is applied by rulers to society in human law. But in his treatise on law, in the Summa Theologica, it's the main four that he discusses. Eternal law, divine law, natural law, human law. And he has a generic definition of law that involves all four causes. Law is an ordinance of reason, formal cause, made by him who has the care of the community, efficient cause, material cause, the ruler, efficient, the community, material, for the common good, final cause. So the four causes applying to all. And the point is that while natural law has as its aim our earthly good, divine law has as its aim our eternal good. And for that reason, while divine law may reiterate matters of natural law, as the Ten Commandments do, Ten Commandments are matters of natural law, on the other hand, divine law goes further and touches on the interior matters of the heart. So, natural law, divine law. The natural law, however, is accessible to all people. And you have a couple of selections from the treatise on law which make plain why it's universal. The natural law is entrusted to all people. And I have here a handout which will help you to see how this works. So let's get this around. Let me have any spares afterwards, if you would. Okay, if you look at this on the left-hand side, whether the natural law contains several precepts or one only. And I want you to notice the teleological picture that comes out of this. A certain order is to be found. Here's the causal order. A certain order is to be found in things that are apprehended universally. For that which before all else falls under our apprehension, perception, if you like, Dr. Chappell, is being. Yeah, that's the primary and the most general sort of thing we are aware of, being. The notion of which is included in all things whatsoever one apprehends. Wherefore, the first indemonstrable principle is the same thing cannot be and not be at the same time. Where did you hear that before? Law of non-contradiction. Okay. Being is being, not non-being, isn't it? You see. Now, as being is the first thing that falls under the apprehension simply, so good is the first thing that falls under the apprehension of practical reason, directed to action. So every agent acts for an end under the aspect of good. Aspect, yes, as perceived, good. So the first principle in practical reason, the first principle of natural law, if you like, is one founded on the notion of good. That good is that which all things seek after. Oh, there's the teleology. Good is that which all things seek after. Hence, the first precept of law is good is to be done and ensued, and evil is to be avoided. That's not the first thing your mother ever told you. Do what's right, don't do what's wrong. Do good, avoid evil. All other precepts of natural law are based on this. So that whatever practical reason naturally, by nature, apprehends as man's good or evil, belongs to precepts of natural law as something to be done or avoided. Since, however, good has the nature of an end, and evil its contrary, all those things which man has a natural inclination and naturally apprehended as good, and objects of pursuit, contrariwise with evil. Wherefore, the order of the precepts of natural law is according to the order of natural inclinations. There's the teleology. Because in man there is first of all an inclination to good in accordance with the nature that he has in common with all substances, inasmuch as every substance seeks the preservation of its own being, doesn't it? You're a substance, a thing. Everything seeks the preservation of its own being. Yeah, this quarter does. I can't break it. It seeks the preservation of its own being. You see. This paper, no, initially it resists. It seeks the preservation of its own being. There's a law of self-preservation that applies to every kind of thing. That's why things resist destruction. You see. So that's applicable to everything in nature. Warding off obstacles. That's the irascible inclination. Warding off obstacles. You see. Secondly, there is in man an inclination to things that pertain to him more specially according to the nature he has in common with other things. Which nature is taught to all animals. Yes, we are animals, akin to other animals, and so there are natural inclinations that as animals we have, such as sexual intercourse, education, raising of offspring, and so forth. Yes, we take these things to be good, you see. Third, an inclination to good according to the nature of reason, which nature is proper to him as a human being. So a natural inclination to know the truth about God takes a rational being. Live in society, an organized, just society, takes a rational being. In this respect, what pertains to this inclination belongs to natural law, like shunning ignorance, avoiding offence to those among whom one has to live, and other such things. You see, that's his introductory outline of how natural law works. Natural inclinations based in the nature of the thing. Generically, with all beings, being has its natural end, which is good. So being is to be good. What is good for any thing, any substance? To